So, racial stereotypes in sports is probably one of the biggest problems we have in it today. For example, there's probably a team of 10 kids from rural Indiana who's playing in an AU tournament in Indianapolis against 10 kids from the city. The diversity of the city allows for better athletes in general to come together because there's so many more. Um, Compared to the rural area, it's kind of like who you were raised with is kind of who you got. And this creates a stereotype that um, black basketball players or athletes in general are more athletic, they're faster, stronger, they're naturally better at the game. And for the white kids to compete, they have to be extremely hardworking and fundamental, have to do things the right way, and that creates a stereotype in its own. It pretty much shows that white kids work harder to play basketball with black kids who just have the natural ability, and it's totally unfair to do that because we don't see how hard they work to get where they are, how hard they work to get their bodies where they are, and it just creates like almost a feeling of jealousy, and jealousy turns into hate, and it really creates a lot of issues. For example, some of the stereotypes in college basketball announcing, like I said, black basketball players are generally said to have more natural ability and athleticism, and white players are usually said to have a strong work ethic, which makes them able to compete with high level athletes. So it's pretty much saying that white players are more skilled, but black people are more natural, and they have the athleticism to offset the skill difference, which is totally unfair because myself working in the UC basketball team, I see how hard the players work in general, and there's no natural to it. It's really setting a goal and achieving it, and many don't see it that way. They see it as they have it the easy way, or it's easier than we have it, and it's not that way. And it's actually the complete opposite. And it goes all the way to coaching also. Coaching, there's a huge problem with how many coaches of minority we have compared to white coaches, white male coaches specifically. Over the last, I'd say 5 to 10 years, it's been more popular for um, women coaches and men's basketball to come around, which hasn't always been a thing. Um, for example, Jaden Ivey's mom, he was just selected number 5 overall to the Pistons. She was an assistant coach for the Memphis Grizzlies for a number of years before getting the Notre Dame women head coaching job. And some of the reasons we see these issues is because the stereotypical like white male checks a lot of boxes for managerial positions that white people seem valuable. So whenever we have those and like kind of what we find as important, um, it hurts other races, even though they're just as qualified. They have the ability to do everything that a white male has to do, but the chance given to them is a lot harder to secure. Um, like one of the biggest stereotypes hindering the expansion of minority coaches is the temperament of African American coaches specifically. Many believe they're hot headed, you know, that they don't care. They're just gonna, yell, scream, and lose it in situations which they can't afford to, and that's just not true. Um, you know, personality isn't genetic. It's just something you're kind of like born with. It's something that's like carved, and it's how you're raised, and it's really not fair to throw people all in one category like that because it's just not true, and it makes it harder and harder for us to get to a level where there's more diversity in the sport and kicking out those stereotypes. To destroy a stereotype, you have to give it the chance to be destroyed, and we don't see a lot of that in today's sports. And some of the reasons I think we are here now, um, there are only 4 African American sports editors in the city where there are professional franchises and 19 African American columnists. And what this kind of means is that most white reporters and editors and columnists are writing about these African American athletes and not really able to connect with them on a deeper level just because we've been raised so different. Even though we don't believe we have, we really have. And I think the more we get African American or people with minorities in general out there, writing these articles can connect a little bit different and understand, who they really are. I think until that happens, we're always going to see them portrayed as like one way, and it's not going to be beneficial to the growth of anything. Because like right here, they did a study, and it said 50%, 56% of whites think African Americans are more violent. 62% think African Americans are not as hardworking as whites. 77% of whites think most African Americans live off welfare, and 53% African Americans are less intelligent. And these are issues that we've seen since you know the 40s, 50s, and 60s, and they really haven't changed. And so something needs to change for this. And I think the first thing is putting people in positions to report that will give you the whole story rather than the issues associated with a certain player instead of stereotyping it to a whole league, because there are so many African Americans playing at such a high level that if one player messes up, most likely they are going to be African American, but it's not going to be um, telling for the whole group. And that's one issue I think that needs to be changed to have further growth in this area.